Welcome back, Nerd Squad. While we're entering an era of logic in comics where most heroes have ditched the idea of a civilian identity as they realize that their disguises really aren't fooling anyone, there are still some supers that cling to the idea that no one can or ever will know about their secret civilian identity should they remain disguised. The problem? So many of these disguises in comics are known for being hilariously awful, yet surprisingly characters in the comic books act surprised and remain baffled at just who these superheroes really are. Really? Really, guys? Who could they be, I wonder? Today we're going to take a look at some of the most lazy and obvious disguises of all time as we count down the top 10 superhero disguises that actually suck. Be sure to stick around till the end of this list where we will have some bonus content coming your way. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Daredevil. While Daredevil's disguise is actually pretty good on paper as a blind man by day and a man who appears to be able to see at night in a fully covering spandex suit complete with horns, in reality it ended up being not that great. Eventually this disguise would be one that existed in law only. Not only did Kingpin know for some time who Daredevil actually was, but despite keeping it a secret himself and swearing all of his goons to secrecy, the word eventually got out. And then literally pretty much everybody knew. Although to be honest, a good number of the baddies knew already. So, what did Daredevil do? He sued to protect his identity. Sorry, what I mean to say, for legal reasons, is Matt Murdock, who is definitely not Daredevil, but was allegedly accused of such, sued to prove that he wasn't. Which he did, because Murdock won the case. So everyone knew what they knew, but what we're not legally allowed to say, but no one was allowed to talk about it. I mean, we all know who Daredevil is, but for legal reasons, I must repeat that it is definitely not Matt Murdock. Please don't sue us, Matt. Number 9. Beast. Beast isn't normally one for disguises. Most of the X-Men just are who they are and are often persecuted for just that reason. But when Mesmero kidnapped the X-Men and altered their minds so that they believed they were performers in his sideshow, Beast came to the rescue and rescued them from the circus. Well, at least he tried to. He had to go incognito. Now, Hank McCoy is known for being a genius, so what do you think he did? Use Nightcrawler's image inducer maybe? Or try to brew up some kind of temporary invisibility serum? Nope. He wore a trench coat and a hat. No one would ever recognize him that way. Granted, his fellow comrades did not because they had no memory of Hank after having their minds tampered with. But they certainly saw right through his disguise and immediately started screaming for others to come help them fight the monster. Good one, Hank. Way to use your brain there. Number 8. Jay Garrick's Flash. Man, the Flash disguises have come quite a way in terms of look and technology. Back in Jay Garrick's day, all he had was a metal hat with wings on it. In Jay's Flash disguise, you can actually see his entire face. So how did no one recognize him? The reason we were given is that he moves so fast as a speedster that no one can see him. He's just a blur. But that doesn't explain all the times that he was visibly seen by those he saved, Princess carrying them as they moved at the same speed as him in his arms, thereby able to completely see his face. Jay also literally had his face on the front of a magazine in the comics, so you can't claim that no one would recognize him because we probably all knew what he looked like. Thankfully, at least the Flashes to come after Garrick would make amends to fix such plot holes, going for a more full coverage and aerodynamic look, though Wally still dares to flaunt his very striking red hair. It's like Wally West disappears, the Flash shows up, they both are gingers. There's not a lot of gingers left, guys. Come on, let's put 2 and 2 together. Number 7. Green Arrow. Okay, even if we don't talk about Oliver Queen's ridiculous Robin Hood Halloween costume look, his disguise is still really ridiculous. Why? Because of that super specific facial hair. Seriously, I have yet to see another character in the comics, especially in the modern age of comics, with facial hair like that. Ollie is the only one, and he lives in the same city that he operates in as a vigilante. Heck, he was even the mayor at one point of that city, so his face was everywhere, and yet no one seemed to notice that these two were the only ones with that very specific Shakespearean look when it came to their facial hair. Really? Really? Just me? Number 6. Captain America. Back when Steve Rogers first adopted the mantle of Captain America, everyone was wondering who the man behind the costume was. Who is this new all-American hero, taking down spy rings and fighting the good fight? Even young Bucky Barnes wanted to know. He actually told Steve all about it and pondered who could be the guy behind the mask, telling him he'd like to meet Captain America one day. Steve pondered that just might happen for young Bucky. It just might, Bucky. Obviously, because he was Captain America. The hilarious thing about Cap's old disguise back in the day was that he wore military fatigues as part of it. How much more obvious could one be? Captain America's in the military. Steve Rogers looks just like Captain America. He's also in the military. Just saying. Number 5. Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Luke Cage and Iron Fist have never been known as masters of disguise. Luke doesn't even try to disguise who he is anymore, he's just known as Luke Cage, he's not even Power Man. He doesn't even have a civilian identity, but despite this fact, this has never stopped both partners from trying to disguise themselves. In Volume 1 of Power Man and Iron Fist, these two at one point were attempting to locate their colleague Jaren Hogarth when they were forced to disguise themselves as harem girls to avoid being detected by a vizier as they stuck around his palace. Their idea of disguise as harem girls, by the way, was just putting on like a silk robe. Not even a silk robe, it looked like they were literally wrapped in silk sheets. Though I will say at least they were committed. When the vizier called on Luke to dance for him, he dragged Danny up there with him, and the two attempted to dance seductively to maintain their disguise and appease the vizier. It was all for naught, however, though, as apparently they weren't as graceful as they looked, or rather, didn't look. They didn't really look that graceful. And Iron Fist stepped on Luke's robes, ripping them and revealing him in his full costume underneath. This was worse than that time that they attempted to disguise themselves with just trench coats over top their costumes. Seriously, what is our weird obsession with trench coats in comic books? Not everyone has to wear a trench coat. Not everyone owns a trench coat. Why do all these superheroes have trench coats? Number 4. Green Lanterns. What is it with Green Lanterns? They all wear a small mask as a disguise and also act like it is such an important part of their costume, their disguise. Everyone knows who you are, guys. You're not fooling anyone. In fact, I think part of the reason why John Stewart still doesn't wear his mask as Green Lantern is because he acknowledges just how ridiculous it is and how little it does to even protect his identity. That, and he's also obviously very proud of who he is and to be a Green Lantern, but I also think that he just knows it's silly at the end of the day. After all, the mask has done little to protect Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner's personal life from being attacked as a result of their actions as Green Lantern. So, yeah. Number 3. Wolverine. Despite the fact that Logan is a mutant and mutants usually wear who they are on their sleeve like I was saying before, Wolverine has discovered a few times the importance of hiding his identity. He usually disguises himself by simply using an alias. It's a great disguise there, Logan. But one of his most ridiculous attempts at this was when he used an alias and a disguise when he was in Madripoor. To protect the knowledge of the X-Men's resurrection, Logan uses the alias Patch. He wore an eye patch. Fitting, no? And he dresses fancy as a disguise. But he still wears his hair exactly the same. And Wolverine's hair is iconic. So while he might be miraculously fooling almost all the characters in the comic book world, he leaves all of us questioning his disguise choices. Like, style your hair differently, Logan, what are you doing? An eye patch is not a disguise. No one will know because I'm wearing this eye patch. Number 2. He-Man. What I would call a simple tan, He-Man considers a bona fide foolproof disguise. That's right. We're supposed to believe that only 3 people know of He-Man's true identity: Man-at-Arms, Orko, and the Sorceress. And yet the only difference one can notice from transformed to untransformed is the color of his skin. Not even his size changes, he's still like totally deezed either way. He-Man is just a tan version of Prince Adam, and Prince Adam is just a pale version of He-Man. That's it. To be fair though, would you guys know it was me if I had a really intense tan? Probably be like, what happened? Is that Amanda? Number 1. Superman. Ah yes, the power of the specs. The crazy thing about this disguise is not even that we're expected to believe it, but that in All-Star Superman, DC doubled down hard on justifying it. They explain that Superman's disguise as Clark Kent is so much more than just his spectacles, it's so much more. It's his gait, the way he walks and carries himself, the sound of his voice. All of this plus his glasses are supposed to make him look like a completely different person. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds plausible. But the fact that DC had to justify it so hard proves just how terrible of a disguise it truly is. Like, obviously they were like, no, there's more. What is even more hilarious is how many other members of the Super family have straight up copied this genius disguise and also had it miraculously work. You'd think that people might start noticing a pattern here. While posing as Linda Lang, Supergirl worked at the same office as Clark and used the same tactic of glasses as a full-on disguise. Oh, and she put her hair up, so how could we ever know? However, would anyone guess her true identity? And Clark and Lois attempted the same disguise with their adopted Kryptonian son, Clark Kent, as well. Because why change a completely bulletproof disguise? I think what they seem to be missing is that Superman is bulletproof, but this disguise, well, it really shouldn't be. You're just wearing glasses. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you enjoy this list. What do you think of the disguises mentioned here? Do you think they would work in real life, or would you see right through them? Who do you think has the best and worst disguises in comics? What do you think about the idea of superheroes not even using disguises or aliases to protect themselves. Do you want a list like this about supervillain disguises? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And on your way down there, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring our bell if you haven't already. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to always stay nerdy, YouTube. Oh, and watch out for that bonus content. Now no one can know it's me. Also, I'm wearing a mask. Like, we know it's you. They all shop at the same store, and they only sell trench coats and costumes. That's it. No one will know it's me because I have a tan. To be fair though, I feel like that would work for me, so I said that like I don't know how to talk.